I like when the Olympics were on. Yeah, like I would watch, especially the winter stuff. Like I would usually watch. I would see figure skating happen, but like I didn't know the rules. I didn't know how the point system worked. Like it was just like, oh, this is just really beautiful. This is really beautiful performance art. And even after recording the show, I still couldn't tell you how the point systems work, anything like that. But I do have a little bit more of an idea of just the work that goes into it now, and I have much more of an appreciation for it.
I never watched it, in a religious kind of way, but every now and then I watch it because, am I wrong? Ice skaters, great butts. And I mean, I'm straight as can be, but
You just can't miss them.
I'm not going to deny it. You can't deny the great butts and the stunning athleticism. Butts first. I mean,
So do you have any kind of respect for figure skating and butts?
absolutely, I do.
One of the great things about Yuri on Ice was how much detail went into the choreography for themselves, and even the sound recording.
Yeah.
They skated the routines and actually used that for the routines.
Right. Like all the rotoscoping that went into animating the ice skating, like, and the fact that they use like actual professional and Olympic skaters for those routines when they animated them was just holy crap.
Oh yeah, no, they went all out with that. So, what was your favorite routine from the show?
The one he made for me, the arrows.
Oh.
I love arrows. The music alone is like, oh yeah, that's sexy. First time you get that kind of Spanish guitar hitting the acoustic that hits, it's just like, oh, we're in for a treat. Yeah, no, just and really just the evolution of that routine, especially as Yuri kind of realizes. Well, as he's coming up with the story of the routine, like behind it, and he's struggling with it, and it's still not working. But then that wonderful moment where he realizes, no, I don't need to change my move. I just need to change the way I move. I don't need to be. I shouldn't be approaching this from the point of playing the seducing male, or like I should be the woman in this. Like I should be the femme fatale, and like just change the whole thing for him, and he gets such an attitude too when he's doing it. Like you just see there's just like, I am sexy and I know it. I love that routine for that. Just him getting into that mode and watching him go through it.
That was always fun to see because you could tell there was always a moment in the show where he kind of goes switch and interact with Victor, and you could tell when he starts talking to Victor that it's about sex.
Watch me, Victor.
Okay. So what was your favorite?
I think because I disclaimer. Yuri on Ice for us at Funimation was a broadcast dub, which meant we got the episode, and a week later, I guess it was on a 2 week schedule?
I think it was 1 week.
It was 1 week.
Yeah, so
one week turnaround on these episodes. This was at the same time, during the day, I was recording my own broadcast dub and a DVD dub, and then at night, I was doing Psyche K, which was another broadcast dub, and Yuri on Ice at the same time. So, what I remember from the show is very little. It was very fast, in and out, guerrilla style acting. You just kind of get in there and you're like, okay, what's my reference? Okay, what does he sound like? Okay, what's the point? What's going on? Okay, here we go. And so I still have to watch the whole show because I haven't seen it.
You've only seen it from Victor's perspective.
I have only seen it from Victor's perspective.
Yeah, and that was also kind of one question, because it is the 1 week turnaround. How does that work? I mean, do you guys get to watch through it once, or help me out here?
He doesn't really get to, because as a director,
I just don't have time.
Yeah, you're up there from 9 a.m. till, and while you were recording Yuri, you were pretty much there from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. every night, every day, directing 2 shows, recording 2 shows. Your free time was sleep, and that was
no
about
free
it.
time.
For me, I had a couple of other shows that I was doing that season in addition to Yuri. I was also doing Drifters during the day. Death Drifters fan. And
I was busy, okay?
and I'm also I'm a script writer for Funimation. So for that season, I was writing the first half of a show called Trickster. And during the day, oh, awesome! People know that show. And so like, if I did have the free time, I would try to watch an episode. Like I would try to watch that week's episode just so I kind of had an idea of what was going on. But very rarely did I have the time. So I also kind of I didn't really get to watch Yuri until the dubbed episodes went up, and then we were watching the dubbed. So I was kind of finding everything out either the day that the fans found out or about a week later.
So,
But I did like the arrows part. I remember that. That was what I said all of that. That's one of the parts I remember, so I'll go ahead and say that's the one I like too.
there we go.
It's fun.
So, what was your favorite thing about your character? Like, what was your favorite thing about Yuri?
For Yuri, Yuri to me has a lot of similarities to another one of my favorite characters, and that's Armin from Attack on Titan. Yuri and Armin are very similar in the fact that when you first meet them and you first kind of get to know them, they're both in a place where they don't really see a lot of value in themselves, and they both just kind of have this feeling of like I'm not really like I'm kind of a failure. Like in Yuri's case, it's more coming from the perspective of an artist that has tried to make his way at the thing he loves, and he feels like he failed. And he's gone into this depression, and while he still loves skating, he just doesn't really see himself going anywhere with it. And I loved getting to follow his journey and his arc through these 12, 13 episodes where this loving relationship that he just kind of makes with this person that he's idolized since he was a kid brings out the best in him and makes him realize that he does have self-worth and that he can do it, and just the friendship and the love that he and Victor share, as that grows, like his confidence in himself and his art grows. That was my favorite part about him, was watching him just go through that change. Kind of the same thing with Armin.
Kind of grow up.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about Victor?
The support, the never giving up on Yuri. That no matter what, you can do this. You can totally do this. You may not ever be as good as I am, but you can do more. You can be better. You can be the better that you want to be. And the love. I mean,
Really,
it was confusing at times as to what kind of love it was at the time, but it always came from some kind of love.
Yeah, I think this scene kind of sums it up. But I mean, yeah, like part of the thing to kind of expand on that, it was you weren't really sure for the longest time.
Right. Is he just messing with him? Does he have real feelings for him? Is this just about the skating?
Right.
And then it's confirmed eventually.
Right.
There's no denying.
There's that flirtation, and one thing that I really loved about it was, and the creator of Yuri on Ice was asked, I can't remember where it was asked essentially like, so where in the world is this taking place? Like what time frame? Is there like a certain year span, or like where is this happening? And her answer was, it takes place in a world where nobody cares who you love. And it's so apparent, and I love the fact that and there's been a lot of shows the past few years that actually we both worked on, like Italia and Free and shows like that, where that kind of relationship and stuff is implied, but it's more often than not it's either fetishized or it's there to kind of be a joke, be the butt of a joke, or there to be made fun of, and this is the first time that I've ever seen a shonenai or a yaoi-esque centric show portray such a relationship as being healthy. Like, it's not a joke. It's not anything like no, there's nothing like that. And yeah, exactly. It's a very equal relationship, and it's portrayed like any other relationship because that's how those relationships work. It's fun.
comfortable with.
Right.
So if you just make it easy, because nobody was shocked by the relationship. Everybody's like, oh, okay, that's cool. You're married, congrats. They're more surprised that, you did it without talking to him as opposed to it was two dudes.
Right. And also because the way they handled it, it wasn't the focus.
Exactly.
Like, it wasn't just like, oh, these characters are also, like, this is their sexual orientation, and this is the focus of this whole story. It's like, no, it was just something that naturally progressed and came about. Like, the story is about, there's the sports aspect of it, but a lot of it is about these two characters kind of finding a new meaning for their career and their respective art. And just the thing that just so happens to help them along in that is this really powerful friendship that they form that is just a very loving and supporting friendship. And they grow because of that. Like, it's just perfect.
So, what don't you like about your character?
He cried a lot. And that's really hard for me to do in the booth. Like the garage scene.
Yeah.
When he's all like, we'll just end this. Like, I won't be your coach anymore. Like that whole scene. And then he's like, oh, I broke him, crap. Like that scene, like I got to see that scene a week before we recorded. I was able to watch that episode, and I was sweating buckets up until the point I recorded it, because being able to cry, like convince, like really feel the type of emotion, especially when you're having to work so fast. Like I think the way you put it was great. It's guerrilla acting.
Yeah.
It's just come in and do it.
Ha! I'm here.
Sometimes it's really hard to emotionally invest yourself in what's going on, because you're just hopping from line to line to line and really only getting, like, it's up to the director of the show to fill in like the context of like what's going on, where you are emotionally, and it can be really hard to just kind of call on that with the snap of your finger. But I think the fact that I saw it beforehand kind of helped me just kind of know where I wanted to be, and helped me to gear up for it while we were recording. And then once we got to it, we got it in, I think, 1 or 2 takes, and it just worked out great. So, but yeah, other than that, stop crying so much, Yuri, please.
I can't imagine anything being wrong with Victor. Right? He's number one for a reason.
So, you guys have mentioned that you worked on other stuff together. And do you guys?
Over the years, plenty of times.
So, what else have you worked together on that you love?
Well, I think the funniest thing about like seeing this show now and is going back and looking at Italia, because he's Russian.
Yeah.
I have a great story about that.
Yeah, please.
I'm pretty sure it's how I wound up getting this part. We had a director's meeting right before the broadcast dub season, and we do it every season, where all of the directors get together and we talk about who we have cast to make sure that we're not overtaxing someone, being like, oh, he's in everybody's show. We try to work out who we're going to use ahead of time, so we have something to start off, and we can look at and go, okay, wow, that's going to be too many shows for Monica, or that's going to be, okay, Briner, we can put him in 4 more shows.
So-and-so doesn't need to sleep.
Right. And so, Sonny, at the very end, I think he knew you were going to be Yuri, but he didn't have his cast yet. And he comes up to me at the end of the meeting, and he goes, hey, do you have a Russian accent? And Chris Bevins is standing right next to me. He goes, he was Russian Italian. And Sonny goes, oh, okay. And that's all I heard about it. Until the next week, when Tara got a hold of me and she's like, hey, do you have this much time to be with Sonny for this show? And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And I get in there and he's like, all right, you're this guy. He's Russian. Okay, it's going to sound a lot like the other guy, right? It's slightly different. I'll treat it more seriously, but it's going to sound very similar.
So do you guys record together in the studio? Do you do home studio?
We record at Funimation, but no one ever records at the same time. It's always one person at a time. If we're lucky, the other one will already be in there.
Yep.
But oftentimes that doesn't happen, and you're just kind of in a vacuum, acting to nothing.
Yep.
And
Just a void with music and sound effects.
Yep. and trusting Sunny to guide us through it pretty much.
And like, there will be times where like you come in and, oh, Mike is already recorded on
Right.
Plasetsky, so I can play off of him with any scenes that are in there, but nobody else has recorded yet, so that's going to be empty. Or sometimes Jerry would have recorded beforehand, and other times he'd be like, oh, you're completely alone. And again, like you said, that's pretty much up to the director. And most of us have been doing this for so long now that doesn't really faze us all that much. But it can be challenging from time to time.
I think I met Josh Kenichi. I think was the first thing I remember working on with him.
And that was my first show at Funimation too.
And that would make sense then, wouldn't it?
And the fact that we've been working together pretty much since day one.
And I remember then going, who's playing Kenichi? And they're like, Josh Grelle. And I'm like, I don't know Josh Grelle. And then I finally met him. And he's like, I'm Josh Grelle. I'm Kenichi. And I was like, oh, okay, nice to meet you. But years and years. Years ago. Yeah,
and then it's another crazy thing about this industry is because of the fact that we record one at a time, you can often play off of somebody for projects or several projects, often
for years, and never meet them.
Never once. And then you'll just hear a familiar voice in the lobby one day and be like, wait, weren't you like, hey, I'm your son! Which is probably not the best thing to lead with.
Eric Vale and I have been in shows playing opposite each other for the better part of 16 years now. We have been to 2 conventions together.
So you've met twice?
Well, we've met. I mean, I've hung out with him a couple other places, but it just seems odd to me where it's like, we're in so much of the same stuff. You'd think we would have been to some conventions together, but no, 2.
So,
2 in 16 years.
You mentioned that you've done another Russian type voice for Italian. So how do you do research and like kind of come up with the voices that are not exactly the same?
Well, this is going to be disappointing to a lot of people, but I'm okay with that. It's really, I think it's more attitude than anything else. It's more slight character difference. Russia in Italia is at sometimes more goofy, at sometimes more creepy. Sometimes he's supposed to be just down and out funny, whereas Victor is more like a real person, a little bit more regular. The accent itself really didn't change a whole lot. It's just it is difference between doing something you want to be sneaky and doing something you want to do normal. Very little difference.
Just a change in attitude usually is all you can.
Yeah.
I mean, just because you work on so much, and you manage to make each character different. So I always find that like really impressive because you just do so much.
It's less voice and more character.
Yeah, I think. And like I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize that a lot of like, especially with the way anime has been for the better part of a decade and going, is a lot of shows. Very rarely do we have to do any sort of very kooky or out of this world type of character. Like you get those occasionally. Like Dragon Ball, you're always going to have like really insane big character. Yeah, or you're like little creatures just running around. But like for most of the time, we're doing these very realistic characters, or closer to realistic, and so for the most part, a lot of our work is just doing our regular voices, sometimes a little bit higher,
sometimes a little bit lower.
And that's pretty much where it stays. And really where the only difference in voice, or the perceived difference in voice, comes from is character. Like, this person's a creeper. This person is just kooky, high energy. This person is shy. But you still will pretty much just kind of fit within that small area of your voice and just change up the character.
That's awesome.
It's fun.
So with the quick turnarounds, and you only have a week to put them out, how long does it take you to record an episode of Your Ice to get it to us in time so we don't play
Well,
died.
we only did two.
Right.
And Yuri recorded at night. So, average episode, I would say, is roughly 20 and a half hours of recording time. If they were on the night schedule, they only had 20 hours a week.
6 to 10.
So it's kind of, now, the good thing is some of us, we break everything down by a line count when we're booking people. But one of the reasons Sonny chose some of the people he did is because he knew that they could come in under time.
And, yeah, just punch it
So,
out.
right.
Yeah.
So it's like, he would call me in with maybe a safe 3.5 hours. I say safe because he's assuming I'm going to finish in less than 3.5 hours. But 3.5 hours is, maybe an hour less than what it says it's going to take by the line count.
Mhm.
So that's really the only way we could have gotten some of these shows done, is by calling in people that we knew could do the job.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And you want to leave room for new people as well. You don't want to, say, well, you're new, you can't be in a broadcast dub.
Yeah.
But it does free up some time so you can use some more new people and kind of get them up to speed on how the whole thing goes.
So you
Yeah.
can have them on like a different character that maybe doesn't have that much in that
Right,
show, and
right.
give them a chance to kind of cut their teeth on it, sort of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So, I think like on average then, like to kind of answer like how long you think, like
Yeah.
per character, like I think just for the first few episodes, because it's so Yuri-centric,
Mhm.
And Yuri
Right.
and Victor, like we had a lot more time in the booth. Like I think for the first 2 episodes I was in for maybe 6 hours.
Mhm.
6 to, like, I think the booked time line count was like somewhere between 9 and 12.
Mhm.
And we usually, I think we finished that usually like after one night, maybe needed an hour or two of the next night to finish off whatever we did. So that's like one night out of 5 that it's just me or it's just Jerry. But then as later episodes hit and we got introduced to more and more characters and we're starting to see all these different skaters and learning about their struggles and their inspirations and stuff, it became a lot less focused. And so like there would be times where I'd come in and it would only take me 2 hours to record an entire episode for Yuri. Or, yeah. Yeah, so it changes. It depends. It changes like the wind.
And I know Jerry, you said you didn't get much of a chance to watch it, so if you got an idea for this one, I understand it's not totally cool, but if you had to voice a different actor or character on Yuri on Ice, who would you want?
I would say, what was his name? Christoph? I say that, but at the same time, there's no way I could touch what he did with it. So it's like, no, I think I'll just let him keep that.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. It made me laugh, like in the booth. They would play it for me, and I was like, oh my god. That's really funny. And of course it was. It's sad. He's a funny guy.
Nobody could replace what
No.
Simon did with that at all.
And was Tatum was in it, right?
Yeah.
He was the French, was he French?
Italian, yeah, and
Italian.
he was the Italian brother that was
Yeah.
all about
Yeah,
his
yeah,
sister.
yeah.
Like, we're together forever. Yeah.
That was a good one. But that's it, I think as actors, most of us really love it when accents come around, because most of the time they don't. Most everything is going to be accent free. So when we get the chance to use something that we know and have worked on, we jump at it and we love doing it.
Yeah, I would go with an accent character. Like,
Definitely.
if I hadn't had your like either Placet, like I would have loved to give a crack at Victor or Plisetsky, or even just Yakov could have been fun too.
Yeah.
That guy was a freaking blast.
That was
You must do this. Give me Porosh.
that was Damon, right?
That was Damon Mills.
Damon Mills, that guy's got some range.
Yeah.
It's too good. Let's not talk about it.
Yes.
And I know Micah was really worried at first when they told him like he needed to do the accent because he'd never done a Russian dialect before, but like
In all fairness, Mike is worried about everything. He's adorable.
he is, love him. But he hardcore trained for.
Yeah.
Like he found a dialect coach in the Dallas area that spoke Russian and helped him to find the dialect. And like, yeah, he was great.
That's awesome. So, what characters inspired you guys to go into voice acting? What triggered your love for this?
For me, probably, I mean, cartoons when you're a child,
Yeah,
obviously, and imitation of trying to imitate those characters.
Yeah.
And of course, you get into dubbing anime later on, and you realize that there is no application for those at all. But still, the enjoyment of trying to do something that you enjoy watching or hearing, and then you try to do it, and you go, oh, this is fun. I really like this.
Yeah.
I want to do this, and then get into school, take the classes necessary in school, with speech, drama 1, drama 2, drama 3, oral communications 1, 2,
You mean you can't just pick up a mic and do this?
Some people can. It is not as many as you'd like to think, audience. All of you prospective voice actors out there. But it does happen from time to time. We've had some fans come in, and you're like, well, they're a fan, but they're good. So you can't really deny that we might as well give them a part. But most of the time you can pick them out like that. It's one of those things of, and we have the opposite. We also have people that come in with degrees in acting that you'd be amazed if you didn't know. You'd be like, that person has a degree in acting. Oh, are they in trouble?
Yeah.
They are in for a surprise.
And also you'll get like the people that are coming from that have been doing theater their whole life,
Yes.
and are like
We rely heavily on those
staples.
people.
Yeah, it's like, but you'll also get like the people that are like staples in like the local theater community, but they come in and they cannot wrap their heads around the idea of voice work.
Like matching flaps.
Yeah,
And no,
matching.
you don't get to pick when you pause. The pause is right here. You have to hit it when you're here.
Yeah, and or like trying to finding that cadence and matching it, or even just getting basic mic technique down. You don't need to yell to the back audience. The microphone will do that work for you. It's just you get all kinds.
Awesome. So, if you could work on any character, who would it be? Not necessarily your own eyes, just across the board.
Anything Star Wars. Which actually I got to, now that I think about it. When the Disney was just before Rogue One came out, they did this thing for a Lego, like a Lego little machinima type deal called Go Rogue, and they had a lot of people at Okertron get together and record this thing for Disney. It was just a little like 2 or 3 episode short of recording.
Like a webisode?
Yeah, like webisode stuff and like recording little Lego pieces and stuff like Stormtroopers and Star Wars and just kind of making our own little story with it. And I got to voice Admiral Akbar and a bunch of Stormtroopers.
Awesome.
So,
It's a trap! It's a trap! I could have told you that.
But yeah, like anything, if I could, anything Star Wars, if there was ever another season of the Slayers, I would love to be even just a bandit that Lena Inverse dragon slaves, and it just like blows them away, they're dead and they're gone forever. Just the fact that I got to be a part of Slayers would be a lot of fun for me.
It's like working. No, I don't know. I'd like to play a Scottish character at some point. Right? Intriguing. Tell us more. No, I just that's an accent that I've never gotten to record anyway. I've played an Irish guy, a Russian guy, but
No Scott.
no Scott. Yeah.
You do a lot of dialects.
It's fun. It's anytime I hear an accent, I'm immediately trying to copy it. That's what led me here. It really is. I am more of an imitator than I am an actor. But it got to a point you don't really know which is which. Like imitation, acting, how do you know anymore? I can't tell the difference.
So you mentioned earlier that crying scenes are not really your jam. What other things are difficult for you guys as voice actors? Is there a particular
Yelling.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, everyone can yell, obviously, but Funimation doesn't mess around.
We don't play.
They really don't. And we, at least as long as I've been there, I can't think of a time when we have.
Yeah.
And other companies have actually commented on it when I've gone to work for them. They're like, man, everybody from Funimation goes hard. And it's like, well, that's because that's what we do there. But we don't do this sort of, and then have them put some reverb on it and turn it up. We don't do that. We are expected to yell. If there's a painful yell, it better sound painful. Otherwise, you're going to do it again.
And you will do it until it is painful.
Until it is painful. And then I'll get that. And then you'll go, I can't breathe. Well, you should have done it the first time.
We've actually had we've had actors that have there's stories like especially like the Dragon Ball actors passing out in the booth from yelling for so long. Like there's stories of like Greg Ayers several years ago was I think it was Negima. He was recording Negima, and that's just such a high. Greg is great at going high pitched, but that is even then to that high pitched and doing an accent and having to yell every other thing was pretty intense. Like there was one session where they were behind schedule. They just had to keep going, and at one point he was just like, guys, I need to stop. I need to take a break. Went to the bathroom and tasted blood. Like ripped his throat. And like we've had people like Rico last year.
Yeah.
A lot of roles, very high energy, a lot of yelling, and he wasn't used to that. He developed a polyp on his vocal cords and had to have surgery. They had to cut his throat open and scrape off the polyp from his cords, and he couldn't talk for 2 months. Like that could have ended his career right then and there if something had gone wrong with the surgery or whatever. Like it can be a very one little mistake or one injury like that can end your career very quickly. It's
kind of nerve-wracking.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous work, voice acting.
So,
Right. We get paid to yell at televisions.
Words that aren't even ours. Someone else writes our words for us. We don't even have to think about it.
No.
well, you still have to put something into it. I mean,
Sure,
otherwise
sure.
you're just kind of reading, oh, Victor, I had such a great time gaming. Please give me a good cup of water.
He's making a more comfortable.
But I know you both have done work in video games too. Is there a big difference between doing video games and like an anime series or?
Video games kind of better.
Anime is still with as popular as it's become over the years. It's still very much a niche market, and
Yeah.
so like it doesn't pay as well as stuff like video games or industrials. Really, like it depends on the video game when you're talking about differences in recording. Like if you're going and recording like a JRPG or something, it's pretty much going to be exactly the same thing. You just might not have to match flaps or animation, but you will have to match the timing of the original Japanese audio files. It's like, okay, well they finished this line in 2 seconds, so you have to match it exactly at 2 seconds. And if it's 1 millisecond over or under, you have to do it again until it matches. But if you have something like prelay, let's say like a lot of us worked on Borderlands, and the Borderlands series it's all made by a company in Dallas, Gearbox, and the writers would sometimes be in the booth, be there while we were recording, and they could rewrite stuff, or we could play around and really kind of make the characters and the performances our own. We could talk for as long or as short as we wanted, and it's a lot more free in that regard. It's more like a theater, but in a booth in that regard. And you can say the same for, I think, prelay animation, where you're going in and doing something that has not been drawn yet.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I am like super. I remember my first animes really, besides Macross and whatever, was Ranma 1/2 VHS tapes that you had to track down from a friend of a friend of a friend. So it's really nice that it's kind of gotten bigger, and that there are more voice actors now.
And you don't have to wait 1.5 years for the
good
next 3 episodes.
Oh my lord.
Sometimes now you only have to wait a week.
Yes.
Pretty
But
awesome.
I have to admit, so how, is there a trick to matching up the flaps? Or do you just kind of get used to it and know how to do it?
I'm not sure. I think I've always based it more off of timing than I did necessarily the flaps themselves. Because sometimes, especially if there's enough of them, if it's a sentence that just keeps going and going and going,
Yeah.
most people aren't going to even be able to tell where it's off and where it's not. So it's really, at that point, it just becomes a matter of starting and stopping. So if you have some sort of sense of timing and you're kind of listening to it as you're previewing, and you go, okay, I'm gonna read this line while I'm listening to the Japanese, and hopefully we'll end at roughly the same time. And if you don't, you go, oh, I've got more time, or oh, I better speed this up. And from then you have a pretty good idea of how long it's gonna take you. And there is a little bit of manipulation that can happen after the fact because we have Pro Tools, and Pro Tools is a voice actor's best friend.
Right, everything through the acting filter, it'll be fine.
So if it's if we have something that's a frame or two or three too long, they can squish it or they can stretch it, and as long as the sound file doesn't artifact, then we're fine. It's good. But I've always based it more off of timing than the flaps themselves, unless it has a pause in it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one thing that really helps is a lot of the people up there that are known for matching flaps that can go super fast because they're just really good at nailing them are people that have some sort of musical background, whether they like this guy, like whether you did like musical theater, you played an instrument, or you were in bands like in high school or something like that, like having some, or choir, having some sort of musical teaching, or just the ability to find rhythm and remember it and then stick to that while you're performing kind of sets you apart, I feel.
Now, how, other than being a broadcast series, how is Yuri on Ice been different from anything else you've worked on?
I don't know that I've ever been a part of a show that was hyped up so much before we ever got it.
Yeah.
And that can be intimidating a little bit. You're like, oh, they love it that much, huh? Well, now I'm scared. I'm afraid I'm gonna mess it up now. I don't want to mess it up. I want to like me.
Right.
They'll hate me if I mess it up. They'll write about me on the internet. Which is gonna happen anyway.
Yeah.
You just have to ignore it.
Yeah, you learned very early on, avoid YouTube comments.
Yes. Don't look yourself up. That's the
Yeah.
dumbest thing you can do.
But, what was the question? My mind is went. What was
How is it different?
how is it different? Okay, and aside from the fact that it was hyped up, that really, it was so surprising that it had so much hype, considering the only material that anybody had to go off of was just those little preview clips that they put out before they started broadcasting, because there was no manga to go off this. This was all an original made product. We had no idea what to expect, what the story was really going to be about. We just knew ice skating, gorgeous animation, and just kind of looked at first from the previews like your basic, sports show. You've got this, you got a couple of characters that are facing off, like
There's only room for one of us in this rink.
and that's kind of just really all we had to go off of, and it blew up, and then the story ended up having all of these other elements to it. And week by week, we're seeing it as the fans are seeing it. It was kind of crazy.
And then it turns out that an ice skater was watching the show, and then it turns out that they got the little bump on South Park, and all that stuff, and it's like, whoa, this has reached further than I think anyone thought it was going to.
I love the fact, is anybody here familiar with the skater Johnny Weir? I love the fact that, like, this show, if anything, what sets it apart from other shows is how it crossed different fandoms.
Oh, completely.
Because then people in the ice skating fandom that have never even considered anime or even heard of it are suddenly interested in what this is all about. And anime fans that may not have ever really been interested in ice skating are now interested in it. I mean, just watch people that, like fans of anime that all of a sudden, like videos of them suddenly going to ice skating arenas near them and learning to skate for the first time. Or people that have been skating forever making videos of themselves doing the routines with the music from the show. It got kind of insane. And then you have Johnny Weir, who found the show, started kind of bumping it up to some of his fellow ice skaters, and they started bumping it up. And Johnny Weir, I believe, I can't remember if it's like CBS or MSNBC. I'm pretty sure it's MSNBC, but like he works for their sports team, like especially for when covering like skating and stuff. So anytime he tweets something, it's immediately bumped to the MSNBC page. So for 2 weeks, Victor's naked ass was just all over MSNBC's website. Is this real life? And then not long after the show ended, the actual Grand Prix took place, and there was video of like after people were done skating, people were throwing like the little the pillows and stuff like what Urio's fangirls would have in the show. They were throwing copies of those pillows on the rink afterwards, and one of the skaters, there was a shot of them after skating their routine. They go to the kiss and cry, and their coach had the dog plushie that has the tissues in it. And like, it was just, what is this show? Yeah!
I spied you earlier. I was like, I have to get one of those.
And also just purely from like a merchandising standpoint, I found somebody at Funimation was telling me that, like, over in the marketing department was telling me you can generally tell how successful a show is going to be, at least on the Japanese side of things, from the amount of merchandise that is available for it within the first couple of weeks of broadcast. And generally, you'll have just even like really big titles like Attack on Titan or stuff that's like really big over there, like Puzzle and Dragon that has like a video game for it. You'll have a lot of different styles of merchandise, but for Yuri on Ice, which was just a purely original thing, we weren't expecting much. Within the first 2 weeks of broadcast, not only there was over, I think she said something like 150 different individual types of merchandise for Yuri on, like keychains, got your JJ. But like little stuff like, even things down to like a soap dispenser with Victor's face on it, and, or pillows, or just regular house supplies, and little trinkets and collectibles and stuff, and they were sold out within the first 3 to 4 weeks of hitting the street. There was makeup products being made. Like there was like that one shot where Victor takes the lip balm and a lip balm company in Japan was like, oh, we need to get on that. And did it. Like they made like they started having like little shots of like just that little scene, and then like L'Oreal lip balm and makeup products and all sorts of stuff came out. Like it exploded.
I used to know makeup also.
Yeah, that's fine.
But we got about, looks like 15 minutes left, and I figure some people might have some questions.
I got the questions in the
Anybody
audience.
got questions? Questions? Let's see. Where do we want to go? How about purple hair?
Purple hair.
Am I stand up for something?
Sure.
Okay.
Do y'all have a microphone?
I can shout.
I believe it.
Let it all out. These are the things we could do without. Come on, I'm talking to you. Come on. Thanks.
Okay, so I know that you guys might not be quite as homosexual character. Ice skaters' butts, so
Don't assume.
You can't deny
youth and a lot of youth, teens, children look up to you who are still closeted.
Right.
And that's kind of important right now, especially with Victor being Russian and the bad stuff going on in the world.
Right.
And I was wondering if, even if you're not as gay as them, if you had any words for the closeted youth who look up to you so much.
Well,
No pressure or anything.
I can say this from an acting perspective. As an actor, don't get me wrong, you have every right to choose what you want to do and what you don't want to do. But I feel like if you're not willing to invest yourself in the part, regardless of what it is, then maybe you shouldn't be acting. You know what I mean? Because there were people that said, well, you know your character's going to have to kiss a guy. I'm like, yeah, and guys that are gay do that, right? Isn't that a thing they do? Right? It turns out that as a heterosexual male, I do that with females. But even in high school, my drama teacher, and of course it was school, it's a public school, so she couldn't make us kiss or anything like that. But we had to do love scenes with the same sex. And it was all just a matter of her trying to show us, look, it shouldn't matter who it is. You're an actor.
Yep.
So it's not we should be able to put a log in front of you, and you should be able to convince us that you're in love with that log. You know what I mean? But as far as advice to people who are still closeted, it's tough. I mean, I've never had to do it personally. But I mean, I'm in the entertainment industry. I have plenty of gay friends, male and female. It's a very tough personal thing to go through. But I can say this: they are a very loving and supportive community for each other. So even if it's hard to come out to your family, to come out to whoever, find yourself some friends because the community will take care of you. That's one thing you gotta give them, and just keep that.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Do y'all have a favorite line that you performed during the show?
Yeah, hang on. Really? Pork cutlet bowls? Did I actually say that? I want to crawl under a rock and die!
What's my favorite line? I don't know either. Does anyone have a good line that the director said? Cool, how did that go? I am going to watch it eventually. We have a convention in Dallas, I think it is, where the creator's going to be there, right?
Yeah, the creator of the Japanese creators had you there.
And that would be so messed up if I didn't see it before. So before then, I will have seen the show.
Oh, how about the, is my hair that thin? Like, oh, poor baby. No, it's very thick and shiny. What are y'all choosing or do you want us to choose? Oh, she got a microphone. She's good to go.
Okay. So is it okay if I record it?
Have at it.
Okay. So my name is Caroline,
Hi,
and
Caroline.
I was wondering what you guys think of the Victory fan art, like all over the internet and Instagram. I love the Victory fan art. It's great. There's posters everywhere and stuff.
You know, whatever people are into. I don't pay attention to anyone else for things I like. So if people like things,
But have you guys noticed?
You've signed a lot of them
on
this
the
week.
internet?
this is America. Do what you want.
Be who you are and don't be ashamed of it.
Yes. Thank you.
It's like, yeah, they, some of them have a lot of detail.
Veins. Strange stuff, man. Right, there's a
Questions have to go through the filter first.
I heard like where Japan was doing a movie for you on ice.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were going to do it in America, would y'all want to do that?
Would we be willing to?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If Funimation gets the rights for it and they say, yeah, y'all want to reprise these roles, we like working. And this is a fun show. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Other questions? We got several. Oh, hello. Luffy.
Hello. So I would. Oh, sorry. Is it alright if I record this?
Sure.
Okay. My question is, would you care for a steamed bun?
Steamed bun. Are they hot cross buns?
Maybe. Only if you were talking about going in the sauna with you.
Wow. I think he's a try.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why did you start voice acting?
Well, for me, it was just kind of a lot like what you said earlier. Like, I fell in love with animation and cartoons very early on. My first words in this world were DuckTales, woohoo. And I love to imitate. I love to just kind of reenact the stuff I saw and heard. Enough so that my mom was like, and I'm going to put him in theaters so he can ruin other people's fine linen. Making Darth Vader cakes out of mine. It just, I fell in love with acting and that whole process, and then later in life I became an anime fan, and acting was something I just continuously did, and eventually it was like, I want to marry these two loves and really kind of go after this. And I just so happened to live in a state where two of the biggest anime dubbing companies in North America were an hour and a half north of me and 3 hours south of me, so I just was kind of like, okay, which one am I going to pick? And they liked me enough they kept using me for 13 years.
I was a theater guy and a musician, and kind of wound up in Texas to play in a band, actually. Wait, no, this is intriguing. The keyboard player in that band was Justin Cook, and the lead guitar and singer of the band, his name, you might recognize his last name, his name was Wes Dismuke. And, you know, they kind of, and our drummer was Evan Jones, who will have to look on the older DVDs to find his name. He used to be the lead sound engineer at Funimation. And so it was kind of that sort of, hey, I've done theater before, we used to do that, hey, you want to try and come up and do this? And heck yeah, I do. And there it was. And I took it and I kept doing it.
All right, and we got over there.
Ruby? Yeah, nice.
Hi, what was your first reaction to the Yuri on Ice script?
To the script?
Yeah.
Thank God it fits. Thank God the script works.
Not too many rewrites.
Yeah, very few rewrites. It was Bonnie, wasn't it? Bonnie Klinkberg.
Yes.
She did a fantastic job. She, as the writer, it's just challenging for the writer on a broadcast script because they have no idea what the next episode is going to have. So she was kind of the first person to tackle having to deal with not knowing anything. And so as the show kind of went along, we figured out, okay, this is what this show is about. We, Sunny would kind of send her some notes like. If there's any sort of romantic thing between Yuri and Victor, make sure that is not downplayed in any way. We want the dialogue to make we want that to, if anything, up it, up the yowie factor. And it's but other than that, it was really just kind of like okay, this is what this is. And by episode 5 or 6, she knew what the show was, we knew what the show was, and it was a piece of cake at that point.
I don't know how many of you are familiar with Sunny at all. Sonny's a bit of a fun-loving guy, so he used a lot of the time to make me laugh. Mm-hmm. Not concerned about Victor laughing or anything like that, but some of the directions would be, okay, I want you to say this like you're already inside of him. But it made
like one of the first moments where I was like, oh, okay, so that's where we're going. Was the scene? I think it was the second episode where Victor is now staying at their family's hotel, and they have that scene where they've just moved his stuff all up into that room, and he he has his hands on Yuri's face, and Yuri has that big reaction where he just flies halfway across against the wall, and I did it once, and like just kind of usual little funny reaction or whatever, and then he was like, no. I want this to sound like, at first you have that whole shy moment where he puts, and then I want you to react as if he just grabbed your crotch. And then I got it. And that's the thing, like, so many of his directions are like that, and a lot of times they won't be like that specifically, but they're always this beautiful painting of a scenario
To get you to a result.
Yeah, and it's always, you know exactly what he's talking about when he does it too, and you get it every time. It's crazy. I love following his directions.
Alright, I think time-wise, we're gonna have to make the next question the last one, unfortunately. This has been so much fun, so, we got the last question?
Who's got it?
Yep, back here.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
I really wish it was the last question, but Jerry,
Yes.
do you know that your Russian accent for Victor sounds a lot like Dan Allen from Game Grumps doing a Russian accent?
Well, I think that means that everyone's doing it right then. I'm pretty sure that's what that means. No, I mean, let's be honest about it. I've never claimed to be a Russian specialist or anything like that. There is a general Russian accent that you can do that kind of gives the impression that you might be Russian to people who don't know any better, which is most of you. And that is why you can get away with basic Russian accent. You don't already love everything you like. But it's basic. There are some people, from Russia who are like, that is a great accent, and others are like, your accent is terrible. And it just depends on who hears it. Everybody's got their likes and dislikes, but if I sound like someone else who's doing